You might remember us, the ones in the red shirts.
We can't afford guns being the leading cause of death for children and teens in this country.
Whether you're Republicans or Democrats, you can't look away.
We're not going to shut up until we get the change we deserve.
Thoughts and prayers are no longer enough. We need to take action now.
You didn't get this far by saying you can't. You didn't get this far by just being mediocre. You moms demand action, and that's what we demand.
Welcome to Movement Builders, a show about the people ending gun violence in America. All of us.
I'm Kaylin Ford.
And I'm Nikita McDaniel. Today's guest is truly an incredible movement builder. I am so excited for us to have with us today our first ever executive director, Angela Ferrell-Zabala.
I'm so excited to be here, y'all. Thanks for having me today.
Thank you, Angela. We're so excited to have you here on the show. Folks, for those of you that don't know, Angela is a lifelong volunteer and grassroots organizer who has dedicated her life and her talents to making a difference on so many important causes, from women's rights and civil rights to LGBTQ plus rights, immigration reform, reproductive rights, racial justice, and education, just to name a few. She joined the gun violence prevention movement after becoming a mother to her 4 children, and she has spent her time traveling across the country to work shoulder to shoulder with Moms Demand Action and Students Demand Action volunteers doing this work in their communities. Welcome, Angela. We're so thrilled to have you.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here, and it's an honor to do this work alongside all of you. It's just incredible to be able to really think about the changes that we want to make and see that we have a community of people that are willing to stand up beside you, get up beside you, and do the heavy lifting that it takes to make the change we need to see.
Yes, Angela, you are a lifelong organizer and have done this work for so long. Is there a moment that you would like to share with us where you knew that it was like, this is not just a moment, this is actually some work that I will be doing long term?
You know, Nikita, that's so funny because it just feels so organic. First of all, my mom named me after Angela Davis. I think she just put that fire in my belly because I am her namesake. But I think what I learned really early from watching my mother and my grandmother in particular is that when there were things that went wrong in the community or when there were gaps to fill, they didn't wait for some superhero to like fly in and do it. They figured out how to organize before. They didn't even know they were organizers. They just did it as 2 Black women that would just go to other people in their community or go to folks within the neighborhood and say, hey, let's do something about this. I grew up in Philly, born in Philly. We lived in an area off of Cheltenham Road, and there was a lot of burglaries and things happening in our community. And my mother and father got together with other folks on the block and said, we got to do something about this. There's break-ins to homes and cars and all kinds of stuff is going wild. And we're calling police and they're not responding in time and we feel overlooked. And so they organized a neighborhood watch. So they had shifts and folks would be up and monitoring and making sure and built really good relationships with the local law enforcement and other kind of local officials so that we got the resources we needed in the community. So that was an early lesson for me. If there's something that you don't like, if there's something that needs fixing or a gap, you can actually do something about it. And I think that just translated into so many things in my life. And by the time I got to, and I've done many issues, as you stated, I like to find all the easy things and try to fix. I always joke around.
Right.
But I think another time where it came to me really strong was when I was doing work around immigrant rights. As someone that was born here and a citizen of this country and had the right to vote and access to so many things, I was working with dreamers and young students that were just trying to go to school and just trying to make a way in the fear with living in mixed status families about police or other figures of authority that would separate families. I said, I need to use my voice. And I think just knowing and hearing the stories and seeing and speaking to so many young people and their testimonials and walking and marching with them, it was just one of those things where I, again, confirmed that all I have to do is use my voice or do whatever I can to add to this cause and talk to other people and get them involved. And that's how we make change, y'all, in this world. So I feel like I've always been an organizer and I had good examples in my family.
That's amazing, Angela. And I love hearing you speak about your mom and the community that you grew up in and just watching from a very early age how to make that difference. One thing we've talked in the podcast in the past is the difference between being an activist and an organizer. What does that difference
Mhm.
mean to you? And how have you seen the power of organizers versus activists?
Yeah. Don't get me wrong. When people step up to do something, even if it's one time, we're always grateful and thankful for that action. That happens sometimes even in our movement because unfortunately, gun violence is daily. It's daily. And sometimes it will hit home for folks or hit a community and they decide they want to get up and do something. And that may not always last, but we will always accept when people want to raise their hand and step up to the plate. I think with organizing, what you're doing is you're taking action, but you're also building a sustainable network so that it continues beyond you. Because if you
Yes,
realize and
right.
recognize how big the problem may be, you understand that it's going to take more than just you and your voice or your talents and skills, that we're going to need lots of expertise and lots of time and lots of patience and creativity. And so that means you're going to have to organize. That means you're going to
Right.
have other people understand what they can contribute. And I think that's what's so beautiful about organizing is that it's kind of self-sustaining because
Yes.
you have to bring other people in. And also, it's not just about teaching somebody or telling somebody what to do or showing them. You are constantly learning and evolving as a person,
Yes.
understanding
Mhm.
people's what their fears are, what their hopes are, what their dreams are, what is possible. And so when you get that, your ability and capacity to see bigger and have a bigger, broader vision for what freedom looks like
That's right.
expands. And so I think organizing is something that continues to create new organizers and new opportunities. And that's why I'm so excited about being an organizer. Once an organizer, always an organizer.
Always an organizer. Yes, Angela. Thank you for imparting that knowledge in this space. That means so much. During this time, this season, we need organizers, right?
We sure do,
Like that's what we're
always.
doing. We got organizers out here. The election is right here. It's happening.
It's happening. And Nikita, I love you actually touching on the election happening. Really important. We know elections have consequences. We got to do everything in our power to ensure that we have courageous champions that are stepping up and fighting on behalf of the safety of our
Yes.
families across this country. When we talk about organizing, one thing that I like to remind people is that there's different kinds of organizing.
All
There's that
kinds.
electoral organizing that happens in campaign organizing, which there's a start and an end. And you know when the campaign starts and you know when it ends. And that usually happens around elections and other ballot initiative work and legislative work. And then there's like the engagement organizing and community
Yes.
organizing, which is ongoing,
Community
constant,
organizer.
because you're constantly bringing people into a place of leadership or having them see their own ability to be leaders, because we all are leaders and we can
Yes.
all be
All our
leaders. But
leaders.
I think when you're doing engagement and community organizing, it's constant. So there's all kinds of ways people can jump in as organizers.
You speak a lot about joy. Every time I see you, you're always talking about that. And even during this election season, maintaining our joy has been important. So, we're going to ask you to share some joy and impart some joy into this space.
Yes. I mean, it is such an important thing. It is an imperative when you're doing this work. And I think, especially speaking as a Black woman, it's very easy to see in the examples of my mother, my grandmother, and the list goes on, of almost this martyrdom. Like you just have to beat yourself into a tizzy, getting stuff done on your back, making sure it's done. There's a lot of
Yes.
guilt, especially as a mother, a parent. There's like guilt and there's just this pressure to just make sure you're taking care of everything. And I think we forget, especially when we're dealing with issues like gun violence, which there's a lot of trauma. People have been
lot of
taken,
trauma.
lives have been stolen and disrupted and impacted. And I just think joy is so important. It is so important because it's a restorative thing. It's so
Yes.
important because, I'm a person of faith. It's a God-given thing.
Yes.
And we
God
have it and we have the right to tap into it. We have the right. Oftentimes when I do this work, I think about case studies or just history in this country. And one thing I go to often is civil rights movement. And even before, when our people were moving out of chattel slavery and bondage, and just thinking about a vision and tapping into a joy that was unknown. There was no blueprint. All you
Yes.
saw was pain and grieving and loss and death and separation and cutting off cultural ties and everything that you knew. But still, there's so many that tapped into joy and love. We see the spirituals that they would
Yes.
either sing or the stories they would pass on. And that is so important for us to maintain our hope and our faith that something bigger and brighter than us exists and that we are capable of walking towards that light, towards that liberation. And so for me, it is an imperative for joy. And the way that I do this and this work is, first, it's always such an honor to be able to travel around the country and meet our incredible volunteers. I love, love. Our leaders are incredible. How much they're juggling, how much they're contributing, just the people that they are in their lives, and how grateful and lucky and honored I am that we have them as part of our movement. And so just plugging into that, I also think and look at my children. I'm a mom of 4. And I just look at that I'm able to provide for them, and that they are, loving, kind people. I was just on the road. I was in Las Vegas, Nevada. I was in Albuquerque and Santa Fe, New Mexico. And I was able to bring my girls with me onto the campaign work, especially my 8-year-old, who's very keenly aware. She's following this election stuff and feeling and demonstrating what it looks like to step up and advocate, what it looks like to build community, what it looks like to look outside of what you understand and know to be like your community. I love my community, but what's beyond that? And what can I learn and know from other folks? So that is so important. That's where joy comes in for me. It's like passing it on to my children and other children, and just being present with incredible spirits and incredible humans in this world that are doing hard work and the heart work of moving this world to a brighter place, so we all have brighter futures, and that we are all seeing liberation. It's possible.
And joy is also in so many ways an act of defiance, right? And an act of dissent, especially in this work where we know that the other side, the gun industry, the gun lobby, wants people to feel hopeless. They want people to feel afraid. They want people to think that there is no better world possible. This is it.
That's right. That's absolutely right.
And so joy turns into an act of protest in and of itself, and an act of defiance in and of itself, to say, no, we know a better world is out there. And you know what? We're going to celebrate the little pieces of it we see today.
That's right.
Talk a little bit about the way that you see folks in our movement finding joy. I always see folks at meetings holding somebody else's baby and juggling them along, embracing hugs, getting out the bedazzler and making their custom swag. What are some of the other ways that you see people expressing their joy in this movement, and how does that help you keep going?
There's just such kindness and such possibility when I'm out in the field with folks. It's the smallest things, right? The smallest gestures that mean so much. And there's times I travel and I'm like, miss my family, or sometimes I have hard days, I'm going to be honest. But to be able to be amongst these incredible leaders and simple acts, like if you look at my wrist right now, look at all these bracelets.
Yes, we love it.
I love it.
One says vote for gun sense. 2 say keep going. I have one that says do something, one that says demand action. I also have this other bracelet. There's an actual bullet. A survivor gave this to me.
Wow.
They took and they made it into art. So it's a beautiful bracelet. All these came right off of the wrist of these amazing humans. They were theirs. It meant something to them. They have love and light and charged with such good energy. And for them to take it off of their wrist and give it to me, that is like an act of love that shows commitment, not just to this work and the solving the problem, but commitment to each other. Because that's what's going to get us through this. And that's what makes Mobs Demand Action and Students Demand Action so incredible, because we have some smart people. We got some smart policy. We got smart organizers. We got creativity. But to be able to build this network of humans that have each other's back is like nothing else. I also love the way people show up creatively. If you're an artist, you're bringing art. If you're a musician, you're bringing music. If you're like to write, you're bringing that skill. If you like to organize, not just organize as an organizer, you like keep your stuff all neat and clean and boxes color coded. We need that too.
I wish I was that person.
Yeah, that's not me, but there's so many.
That's our asset mapping.
Yes,
you see her mapping those assets.
Those spreadsheets with the colors and the tabs. Listen, everyone has something that they bring a gift to this, and that's what makes this joyful, hard work possible. Is that we have each other to lean on, each other's talents and skills and love. And that is something that you can't overlook. It's so important in sustaining this important work that we're doing.
Yes.
So Nikita, I want to come back to this idea of joy. I think when we talk about the world that we're in now, it's really easy to sit and be overwhelmed and feel crushed by the weight of it for so many reasons. We're seeing these suffering, not just locally, globally. The way our elected leaders sometimes behave is like beyond recognition. it feels like there are so many wedges being driven between us to separate us, but that's by design. And
Right.
what I will tell you is traveling around the country and having these conversations with folks, this is not true. It's so easy to see that and feel like that is everything, but it's really not.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
We actually have the power to stop that. We have the power to spread love and light. And I think one of the things I would suggest to people is, first of all, don't make assumptions about who you're talking to, who's in your community. Do a little stretch. Talk to somebody who you wouldn't normally talk to. And this is what I love about being an organizer. I talk to all kinds of folks: Democrat, Republican, conservative, liberal, young, older, seasoned, brand new, and learning. You got to always be curious. Curiosity is a
Yes.
choice. And don't make assumptions, ask questions. Number two, there's always room for growth and learning. We don't know everything. I don't know everything by myself, but together we know a
Right.
lot. And I think our world would be such a better place if we would just see each other eye to eye, just have conversations. We don't have to agree on anything, but we have to make sure that we're respecting and meeting people where they
Yes.
are. And that's also part of organizing. So I think that's when we see more joy and love in this world, and when we can actually get to the actual work that we need to, and also bring
Yes.
the people along that we need to bring along so that we can actually win on this very important issue that impacts us all.
Thank you so much for that, Angela. That really means a lot. As you were speaking, I was thinking about our survivors. We would be remiss if we didn't talk about survivors in this work and their importance. That's why I started doing this work as a community organizer myself, because I heard a mother cry. I didn't want to hear that
Yeah.
anymore.
Yes.
Yes.
And I've seen you work very closely with our survivors. If you could just impart on us some knowledge about what gives you hope from a survivor perspective and your experiences with our survivors in this work.
Yeah. Thank you, Nikita, for that. What an important thing to talk about, because survivors are the heart and soul of this movement. And as we
Yes.
all heard, and I've heard from straight from the mouths of survivors, and is that this is a club that no one asked to join, but yet they find themselves here. And for me, I get up and think about this every single day. I talk about it every single day. It makes me hug my children a little bit tighter. It makes me
Yes.
not take my relationships and with family and friends for granted, because this issue is so pervasive. It's a public health crisis, and too many people's lives have been stolen and taken. And we have to walk in the way that survivors do, in the sense of like stepping up so that we don't have to see more devastation happen. Like you said, Nikita, hearing the heart-wrenching cries from people that have had to bury a child, or have lost, or had a
Oh,
friend taken
right.
from them, or a loved one taken from them, or
Yes.
have themselves been impacted and have to live a life full of trying to heal and move through trauma. It's just one of those things that I don't take for granted. I got to tell you, I don't take it for granted. And one thing I want to say, thank you to all the survivors, because we could not have come this far without your perseverance, without your heart, without you pushing, and demanding action, demanding change,
Amen.
demanding that we wake up, demanding that your voice be heard, and that we do not ignore your pain and what has been taken from you. So
Yes.
there's so much that we've been able to accomplish because survivors have stepped up. And so I'm just proud to have them as part of our movement and think about them all the time. So many stories that I hear, and just love them. Just love them, love them, love them. You cannot ever replace when you have people you love taken from you, but what they are doing and the way they're showing up by example is just profound. So I just want them to know their work and their pain, all the things that they're putting forward, blood, sweat, and tears. I see you, we love you, and thank you for everything that you've contributed and continue to contribute.
That means so much. That means so much to this work that we do. And I am also proud that we're an organization that provides the space for people to heal from the trauma. We don't just bring people in and ignore that, because it's a real part of people, and we're trauma informed in our work that we do. And that means a lot.
Yes, yes. Thank you, Nikita.
Yes. Thank you, Angela.
Nikita, I want to honor you also, all the work that you do in communities with community partners, many of whom are founded by survivors, and who you bring into this movement and this work in such a beautiful, powerful way. So I want to give you a shout out too, my friend.
Yes.
and co-host.
That's so sweet of you. Well, I'll pass that shout out to our amazing leaders too, because if it were not for them and being able to work with them and doing community engagement on the ground together, we know that that's the heartbeat of this movement too. We don't do this work alone, and we believe in everybody has a role, right? So we go out and we listen to the gifts of our partners. What do our partners, what are they doing? And how does that plug into what we're doing? And the people that are in the community, that's who we need here the most. So we have to make room for people in the community. We have to get to know the people for ourselves as well. And it's because of our mom's commitment to doing that, their interest in doing that, that makes the work that I do in community engagement more special. And Angela, since day one, I just want to thank you for always giving me the opportunity to do this work in a deeper way, and always supporting our work that we do around our DE&I, our anti-racism work, making sure that we're not leaving out communities.
That's right.
Yes.
That's so important. Nikita, I love you. I'm a fan. You're my fellow Virgo too. Kayla, you do incredible work. This is a labor of all of us, and it's going to take all of us to get to the other side of this. So I appreciate this.
It is going to take all of us. And one of the ways that we've been encouraging folks to get involved in this elections work is this 100 Days, 100 Ways challenge. We're inviting people to do something small every single day for the 100 days up to Election Day. You've been on the campaign trail. You've been out there. Tell us about some of those little moments that you've had that just give you hope and fire you up.
Oh, that's so many. It is just so invigorating to be able to go out and support these incredible candidates that have the courage to step up. And many of these, they're our own volunteers or folks that just everyday people that they never thought about themselves as someone that would run for office. And the whole thing about women, you got to ask us many, many, many times over again before we'd even say yes. And if it's a woman of color, you might as well add 10 more times on top of that. So when I see people that step up and have the courage to say, even though they're told you can't do this, you can't raise the money, no one's going to vote for you, especially if you're a woman or a woman of color, there's an incumbent, there's a scary, get out of the way, you don't know what you're doing, and they step up and we win.
Yes.
We win.
Yes.
We win.
Yes.
We win. When we fight, we win. And when we get up, we can do this because we absolutely know what our communities need when it comes to facing this critical issue that's devastating so many. And we know what it takes when we get in office to get in and advocate for all the things that we know are going to keep our communities safe. And we're always tapping into the needs of our community. Some folks get worried because they say, I'm not into politics. Politics is life. Politics will get you if you don't get it. So when people decide they're going to step up and do what they need, I don't care if it's like my mom said, from the dog catcher to the White House. There's a role for all of us.
Yes.
So even the best dog catcher, we don't care. We need people that have gun sense in mind. We need people that have liberation in mind. We need people that are going to have fairness and unity and not try to divide communities. And so I'm seeing that on the trail. I'm seeing these incredible, incredible leaders step up. And I'm also seeing our volunteers coming out and canvassing and door knocking and phone banking and bringing their kids and doing everything in their power. So it is really exciting for me to see. And I know if we keep this up, y'all, we can win. We will win. We just can't take our foot off the gas. We got to keep going. Tell your friends, tell your neighbors, tell everybody how they can do something, no matter how small, particularly have a plan to vote and take other people with you so that we can get those votes in, and not just the top of the ticket. We're excited about the top of the ticket, y'all. I'm not going to lie, but also it's everything from hyper local all the way to the White House is important that you're showing up, not just to vote, make sure you're doing that and bring others, but also that you're supporting these campaigns, that you can donate your time or money or resources or something, because we need this so we can get out here and win. So we have safety for our communities. So we have gun sense, and we don't have to talk about this as a public health crisis and the leading cause of death for kids anymore.
I love it. I feel fired up. I'm ready to go.
You should be.
I'm ready to get folks to the polls. And I have a bonus question, I guess, for both of you. Both of you are incredible organizers. I'm humbled to be here in this conversation, truly. And both of you are incredible women of faith. I'd love for you both to share what that means to you in this work and how your faith guides you and how we can engage with folks from different faiths to bring them into this work and make them feel welcome in this movement.
Nikita, you want to go first?
Oh, that's a heavy question. I guess I can. I wouldn't do this work if I didn't believe that I was brought here to do this work by a higher power. And that's what drives me every day, because I know that that is where it comes from. Like, I'm not doing this work for a paycheck. I wish I didn't have to do this work at all. But I know that it's important for us to make sure that people are not being killed. They deserve a chance, and it keeps me going. It's where my hope comes from. And I center everything around that.
I love that. I feel very similar to you, where I feel called to this. And the way it works for me, I always call them the whispers. And sometimes the whispers get to yelling when I don't listen. But I was called to this. And every single time that I'm called and I follow, it's where I'm supposed to be. I feel like it's a center for me. It's what helps me understand how I'm connected into other people. But also, because of my faith and because I trust and because it's never failed me, then I know that I'm just walking that path. And I know that what I'm called to do is the right thing to do. And I know that we will get to the end of this because that's what I've been called to do. So, I mean, and for folks that are maybe not people of faith, they may not quite understand, but it's when you just know that this is what you're supposed to do. And let me just be clear about that. It doesn't mean I have all the answers. In fact, that's when you know you've been called, because you don't have, sometimes you're like, I don't have a damn answer. I don't know.
Oh gosh, they hit different.
But it hits different because you just lean on that, because I was told, because I am the vessel in which this has to move through, because whatever the things that I have, whichever things that ground me, the gifts that were born into me are the exact things that are needed in this moment to lead this work. And that's with every single one of you. So don't doubt yourselves. When you feel that spirit call you to something, you just know. And when I walk it, I know it's right. So that's the best I can say. But it is definitely guides me in times, especially when times are darker. It feels like you're pushing a mountain up a mountain. It's like, keep going. We always say that, keep going, keep going.
Yes. Take a rest, but don't quit.
That's right. You can always take a rest, but we got this. That's why we need a network. That's why this community is so beautiful, because it's not up to just one of us. It's all of us being called to this work to bring our gifts and talents. That's going to be the winner at the end of the day, is all of us coming together and doing this work on behalf of everybody so that we can live and not just, like I always say this, not just survive, but thrive and not be afraid to go outside of our doors. Our kids, I just want to see our kids just thrive and learn and be kids and be free. That's what they need. And so we're doing everything in our power. So I'm really excited to be a part and honored to be a part of this work.
Same. And with you all, Kaylin, I feel very honored to work with you every day. But shout out to you.
Thank you, my friend. That means so much to me. And we're really honored to have you in this space, Angela. All right, final question. Angela, how do we want to wake up feeling the day after Election Day? If we had a newspaper coming out about the role that our movement played, what would you want that headline to be?
I want that headline to say that moms showed up, moms demanded, and moms delivered. They delivered a historic win for the first Black South Asian woman to run and win, and now President of the United States of America. And that now we know that we're going to get a champion to help us when it comes to alleviating and ending gun violence in this country. Our children are free, y'all.
I love that. And students too. Students showed up, students turned out. Students did this work. I think young voters are going to be so essential in this election, and I can't wait to see what happens.
Absolutely. I'm so proud of our young leaders. They are doing so much, and the future is really in their hands. And the way they're showing up, it's so creatively and just really demanding on so many levels, the kind of world that they want to see and live in. I can be prouder. And so that headline might be, we demanded and we delivered.
Yes, I love that.
Be it.
We demanded, we delivered. We can do this. Thank you, Angela, so much for your time. Thank you for joining us on Movement Builders. It's been such a pleasure to have this conversation with you. We've loved hearing all of the amazing moments that you've seen out in the field with our volunteers. We've loved learning more about you and the joy you find in this work. And I'm feeling fired up. I don't know about you, Nikita.
Yes, I'm fired up and ready to go.
This is great. Thank you all for
thanks
having
so
me.
much.
What a pleasure. I love this.
As Angela said, this is it, y'all. We are in the home stretch until Election Day, and it's time to pull out all of the stops. So make sure that you're checking the Demand Action app every single day for your 100 Days, 100 Ways challenge.
And keep sparking those gun sense conversations wherever you can. At the playground, in the checkout line, at your classroom, with your friends, your neighbors. We have tips, talking points, toolkits, and more on the Demand Action app to help you start those conversations. And hey, as Angela said, maybe try sparking one of these conversations with someone you don't know necessarily agrees with you, because we know there's so much more that unites us on this issue than what divides us. And we need everybody to turn out to the polls.
Absolutely, Kaylin. And guess what, team? We have been so excited to hear what you think about the movement builders so far. So here are some voice notes that you sent us. We've loved listening to them.
Thank you so much to longtime Ohio volunteer and Gun Sense Action Network superstar, Michelle Mueller, who sent us this voice note.
Great to hear from Pastor Jackie. When I first met Pastor Jackie right here in Cincinnati, it was over a burger and fries. And I remember asking him, how could our local moms group help our community? But to learn even more about his advocacy work. And he said to me that day, show up, wear your shirt because your message is on your shirt. Thanks, Pastor Jackie. You continue to inspire us. Thank you, Movement Builders. What a perfect opportunity to learn the true meaning of support mode and what that means to our community partners, because our message will always be on our shirts.
Hey there, this is Amanda tuning in from San Francisco. I wanted to just send a quick voice note to just give a huge shout out and thank you to Kaylin, Nikita, and Gavin for their episode on intergenerational change. And in particular, I have been thinking so much about the conversation y'all had around the difference between activism and organizing. And one of the reasons that really stood out to me is because I think we so often use those terms interchangeably in our work, but they're so different. And don't get me wrong, so many folks are going to interact with our movement as activists, and that's not a bad thing. It's so important that we have big groups of folks who can react to really important moments so that we can show our strength and our power. But we know that we're not going to be able to build a movement and really realize our vision for a future free from gun violence unless we are prioritizing the work of organizing and working towards those long-term goals. Yeah, again, just wanted to shout you out and say thank you. I've been thinking a lot about that conversation and look forward to tuning in next time.
Yes, please keep sharing your thoughts with us. Doesn't have to be long, doesn't have to be complicated. Just hit us up, hit that voice recorder app on your phone, and then email it on over to us. Tell us what part of Angela's story today resonated with you. Share a movement builder who's inspiring you in this work. Tell us about something cool you're doing in your community. Send all that good stuff to movementbuilders@everytown.org. Again, it's movementbuilders@everytown.org. Include your name and where you're from, and you might just hear it on a future episode of the show. Thanks for listening, everybody. I'm Kaylin.
And I'm Nikita. Thank you for all that you do to save lives. It's working.